Hey there, you ready to dive into something really fascinating with me today? We're going to unpack this levels of expertise framework. I think you're listening because you want to know how to, level up in the skills that you care about. Am I right?
Absolutely. That's what we're here for.
Okay, awesome. So
hmm
this framework, it's not skill specific. It's not just for like musicians or chess players or anything. This applies to really to anything you can imagine.
Exactly. It's about understanding the stages of progression in any skill.
Okay, so the document kind of jumps right into it. It lays out these levels of expertise. The first three are inactive, beginner, and novice.
Right. It's like a spectrum of skill development.
They use the example of cooking, which,
Right.
we all kind of have some experience with, right?
Everyone eats.
True. So we've got the inactive folks, maybe they order takeout every night. Then you have the beginners, they can make toast, maybe boil water. And then we have the novices, they can follow a recipe, but they're not exactly opening up a restaurant yet.
Exactly. Everyone starts somewhere on this spectrum.
Even Gordon Ramsay had to start somewhere.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'm curious, what tends to trip people up at these early stages? Like, what should we be mindful of when we're just starting out?
That's a great question. And it's all about building a solid foundation. It's like learning the alphabet before you can, write a novel.
That makes sense. You need those basic building blocks first.
Exactly. And that's what these initial levels are all about.
So it's about mastering those fundamentals before you can really, like, excel.
Precisely. And that leads us to the next cluster of levels: apprentice, competent, and proficient.
Okay, so this is where things start to get interesting.
Right. This is where we level up from like boiling water to, let's say, baking a cake.
Okay, I see where you're going with this.
This is where people often hit a plateau. You're comfortable, you can handle yourself, but you might be missing that extra push to go further.
Oh, I know that feeling. I tried to learn calligraphy a while back. I got the basics down, but then, like, my progress completely stalled. What's the key to, to getting past those plateaus?
Well, the document highlights two major points: deliberate practice and seeking guidance.
Okay, so deliberate practice, that's not just doing the same thing over and over, right?
Exactly. It's about identifying your weaknesses and working on those specifically.
So instead of just mindlessly practicing, I should focus on, like, my pen pressure or something.
Exactly. It's about being strategic. And the second point is seeking guidance, like finding a teacher or
Yeah.
mentor.
Okay, so having someone who can, like, spot those areas I need to work on.
Precisely. They can provide that external perspective that you might not have.
That makes sense. I guess I tried to be my own calligraphy teacher, and it didn't go so well. So we've talked about the early stages. We've talked about breaking through those plateaus. Now I want to talk about the really exciting stuff, like levels 7 through 11. Instructor, expert, master, and virtuoso. This is where things get really, really interesting, right?
Absolutely. This is where you see a real shift in terms of impact. You're not just skilled anymore, you're shaping the field itself. The document makes a distinction between instructor and expert, which I think is really important.
Yeah, break that down for me. What's the difference?
Well, an instructor can effectively teach others, but an expert possesses really deep knowledge. They're the go-to authority in their field.
So you could be a great calligraphy instructor, but not necessarily be pushing the boundaries of the art form.
Exactly. And then, of course, you have the master.
Mm.
They have unparalleled skill and have made significant contributions to their field.
Okay, so they're not just really good, they're like influencing the next generation.
Exactly.
Wow. Okay, but what about virtuoso?
Uh.
That feels almost mythical.
It is the rarest of the rare. To reach this level, you're not just mastering what's come before, you're completely redefining the field.
So like completely changing the game.
Exactly.
This is incredible. We've gone from boiling water to revolutionizing entire fields. But how does this all connect back to us? Like, we might not all be destined for virtuoso status.
And that's perfectly fine. This framework is about recognizing where you are now and taking steps forward.
So it's not about comparing ourselves to, like, the best of the best. It's about focusing on our own journey.
Absolutely. It's about progress, not perfection.
I love that. So how do we actually apply this to our lives? I love that. So how do we actually apply this to our lives?
Well, it's all about taking that first step, right?
Okay, so how do we do that? Like, where do we even begin?
I'm going to give you a challenge, and everyone listening, I want you to take this challenge too.
Okay, I'm ready. Hit me with it.
Think of one skill, just one, that you are passionate about developing.
Got it.
It could be anything, something we talked about today, or something totally different. Now, look at this framework, these levels of expertise, and ask yourself, where do I honestly fall on this spectrum?
Ooh, that's a good one. No cheating?
No cheating. This is about self-awareness. Be honest with yourself.
Okay, so let's say you've identified your level. What next?
That's where the real work begins.
Right, because it's one thing to know where you are, but it's another to actually, move forward.
Exactly. And a lot of people get stuck here feeling like they've hit a wall.
Totally. You know where you want to go, but you don't know how to get there.
My advice. Remember those 2 points we talked about earlier, deliberate practice and seeking guidance.
Oh, right, right. Those are key.
They really are. Pinpoint those weaknesses, break them down into smaller steps, and don't be afraid to ask for help.
It's like having a road map, but instead of leading to buried treasure, it leads to a better you.
I love that. That's a great way to put it.
So it's about taking those small, consistent steps forward, right?
Absolutely. It's about the journey, not the destination.
This has been so insightful. I always love our deep dives, but this one feels particularly useful.
I agree. It's a framework that anyone can use, no matter what they're passionate about.
And that's what I love about it.
That's
Thank you.
fabulous.
Well,
Yeah.
thank you so much for this. And I've got a lot to think about and hopefully a lot of practicing to do.
It's been a pleasure. Always happy to dive deep with you.
And to our listeners, thank you for joining us for this deep dive into the levels of expertise. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on future episodes. And remember, expertise isn't a destination, it's a journey.